Imagine for a moment a world without mothers, not just without the individuals we call mom, but without the very concept of motherhood. What would such a world look like, and what would it feel like to live in it? From the beginning of human history, mothers have been the first bond, the first relationship, the first teacher, and the first source of nourishment. Without them, the story of humanity would unfold differently. Birth itself would lose its tender associations with care, nurture, and sacrifice. The word home might carry no warmth, no fragrance of a mother's voice, no sense of belonging. Philosophers often invite us to consider extremes to understand truth. Aristotle reminds us that humans are relational animals, dependent on each other for flourishing. Friedrich Nietzsche might argue that such a world would embody the cold logic of will and power rather than the soft strength of compassion. Simone de Beauvoir suggests that without motherhood, the social construction of gender and identity would shift, leaving us unrecognizable. Literature presents haunting images of maternal absence. In Dickens' Oliver Twist, the orphaned child drifts through a harsh, unforgiving world. Morrison's Beloved shows the consequences when society fails to protect the maternal bond. Homer's Odyssey reflects longing for maternal presence as foundational to household and society. Religious traditions emphasize mother's irreplaceable role. In Christianity, Mary symbolizes both biological and spiritual care. Buddhism describes boundless compassion as motherly love. Hindu goddesses like Parvati and Durga embody nurturing and protection, anchoring creation itself. Strip away these archetypes, and spiritual imagination becomes impoverished. Without mothers, societies might attempt mechanized or institutional care, but could they ever replicate intimacy, guidance, or deep-rooted love? Technology cannot replace whispered reassurances, patient instruction, or steadfast devotion. Consider the moral and emotional lessons taught first by mothers: empathy, kindness, patience, courage. Without them, humanity's moral and social fabric frays. A world without mothers is not merely lonely, it is diminished. The absence of maternal presence would ripple through every human relationship, from personal identity to cultural continuity. Mothers anchor our beginnings, shape our moral imagination, preserve memory, and cultivate resilience. They are the unseen foundation of creativity, community, and ethical life. Reflecting on such a world reminds us how indispensable maternal influence is, not just for survival, but for the full flowering of human life. At the beginning of every human life, there is a mother. She is the first presence, the first heartbeat we hear, and the first voice that resonates before birth. Without mothers, the idea of beginnings itself changes. Life loses its natural starting point in nurture, connection, and intimate care. Imagine infants entering the world without maternal anchoring, a reality reduced to biology alone, stripped of story. Philosophers remind us that beginnings shape essence. Heidegger described humans as thrown into the world, but the throw is softened by maternal presence. Kierkegaard would see maternal absence as deep existential isolation, leaving individuals to face existence alone. Plato emphasized early nurturing as crucial for education and virtue. Without mothers, formation of character and social identity is incomplete. Literature illustrates maternal absence and its consequences. Shelley's Frankenstein presents a creature born without a mother, unloved, lost, and alienated. In Shakespeare's Hamlet, the death of Gertrude signals the unraveling of familial stability. Alcott's Little Women portrays Marmee as a moral and emotional anchor. Without her, the sisters' lives would drift apart. These stories demonstrate how beginnings are defined by maternal presence. Religious traditions frame maternal influence at life's start. Christianity celebrates Mary's courage in the Nativity, emphasizing relational beginnings. Buddhism ties rebirth and compassion to maternal guidance. Hinduism's Shakti embodies maternal creative power. Without the feminine principle, creation falters. Without mothers, beginnings persist biologically, but hollowly. Institutions might sustain life, but cannot impart trust, love, or moral grounding. Stories, songs, and lullabies would vanish. Each beginning requires a mother, because life is more than a spark. It is assurance that existence matters. Without mothers, origins would be shallow, and humanity would miss the soul of its own story. Mothers are the first moral educators a child ever knows. Long before school, they teach compassion, empathy, and how to see another's pain as meaningful. Through comforting tears, sharing, and gentle guidance, mothers cultivate the moral imagination, shaping understanding of right and wrong. Without mothers, early lessons in kindness and fairness might never occur, leaving a void in human ethics. Philosophers have recognized this influence. Kant's categorical imperative, treating others as ends, not means, is first embodied by maternal care. Hume argued morality arises from sentiment, and mothers transmit moral feeling before reasoning develops. Hannah Arendt observed that moral neglect fosters evil. Without mothers, empathy could be stunted, weakening society's moral fabric. Literature highlights maternal absence in moral development. Shelley's Frankenstein depicts a creature without early guidance, lost in ethical confusion. Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird shows partial replacement of maternal influence, revealing its unique moral role. Victor Hugo's Les Miserables portrays Fantine's sacrifices as moral teaching through love and suffering. Religious traditions connect maternal care and morality. Buddhism models universal compassion on motherly love. St. Augustine credited his mother Monica for shaping his moral and spiritual life. Islam venerates mothers as bearers of mercy. The root word ram links womb and compassion. Without mothers, empathy may be delayed, and moral imagination confined to abstract reasoning. Children might know justice in theory, but lack the felt experience of care. Mothers instill mercy, patience, and ethical awareness, lessons that shape societies. Remove them, and humanity risks fraying its moral core. Mothers teach the first steps toward a compassionate, just, and humane world. Mothers are custodians of memory. They pass down stories, songs, and traditions, preserving identity across generations. Without mothers, collective memory becomes fragile, at risk of being lost. A sense of belonging often begins with the stories mothers tell, the tales of ancestors, survival, and triumph. These stories provide context, meaning, and continuity, linking one generation to the next. Philosophers highlight memory's role in identity. John Locke posited that memory forms the basis of self. Maurice Halbwachs emphasized collective memory, sustained through social bonds. Mothers are central to both personal and collective recollection. Kierkegaard suggested that meaning forms through repeated reflection. Mothers are the first narrators, recounting the past, so children navigate the present. Literature underscores maternal storytelling. In Amy Tan's The Joy Luck Club, mothers transmit culture and resilience. In Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's Half of a Yellow Sun, maternal memory persists amidst war. Homer's Odyssey shows Penelope maintaining household and cultural memory, sustaining moral order. Religious traditions value mothers as keepers of spiritual memory. Judaism emphasizes passing down rituals, prayers, and identity. Hindu figures like Kunti teach children the stories and lessons of gods and heroes. Christianity celebrates Mary's Magnificat, connecting past, present, and future. Without mothers, memory is unanchored. Institutions may record facts, but only mothers embed lived experience into stories. Without them, culture loses texture, humanity loses lineage, and life becomes disconnected events. Mothers create continuity. They make history personal, moral, and enduring. Without maternal voices, memory fades, leaving an incomplete world. Mothers are the first teachers of emotional resilience. They show children how to endure disappointment, loss, and fear while maintaining hope and strength. Through reassurance, hugs, and gentle guidance, mothers model the ability to withstand hardship. Without mothers, resilience might be abstract, taught only through systems or rules. lacking warmth and intimacy. Philosophers link resilience to meaning-making. Viktor Frankl observed that suffering becomes bearable when infused with purpose. Aristotle saw virtue as balance. Maternal care comforts without fostering dependence. Stoics like Epictetus taught that hardship cannot destroy a trained mind. Mothers provide early lessons in endurance. Literature celebrates maternal resilience. In Virginia, Wolf's To the Lighthouse, Mrs. Ramsay holds her family together amid life's pressures. In Harry Potter, Lily Potter's sacrifice demonstrates love as strength. Marmee in Little Women guides her daughters through poverty and grief with steadfast resolve. Religious traditions emphasize maternal endurance. Mary at the Cross exemplifies steadfastness in suffering. Durga embodies fierce protection and endurance. Hajar perseveres in the desert, ensuring her son's survival. Her story is memorialized in the Hajj. Without mothers, resilience may be formulaic, taught by rules without relational depth. Children may survive, but not endure with compassion. Mothers transform hardship into lessons, showing struggles cultivate growth, courage, and empathy. Without them, humanity's emotional strength is diminished, leaving society less capable of facing adversity with grace and love. Mothers are the invisible threads binding communities. They nurture, organize, and sustain social life beyond the home. From preparing meals to leading rituals, mothers often serve as the heartbeat of human connection. Without them, social networks weaken and communities fragment. Philosophers emphasize communities' role in human flourishing. Aristotle viewed households as society's foundation. Maternal care stabilizes this foundation. MacIntyre noted that moral life depends on small communities. Mothers guide these micro-communities. Martin Buber highlighted I-thou relationships. Mothers exemplify seeing each person as worthy of love and attention. Literature shows mothers anchoring social cohesion. In Alan Paton's Cry, The Beloved Country, women sustain hope. In Alice Walker's The Color Purple, maternal and female relationships create safe, resilient spaces. In Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude, matriarchs maintain family across generations, embodying care and communal responsibility. Religious traditions recognize mothers' social role. Early Christian women nurtured households that became church foundations. Buddhism models universal care through maternal compassion. In Judaism, mothers preserve culture, faith, and belonging through Sabbath meals and rituals. Without mothers, communities rely solely on policies or institutions, lacking warmth and relational depth. Mothers create networks of care, trust, and shared responsibility. They show society is more than a collection of individuals. It is a web of nurturing relationships. Without them, the social fabric is fragile, and human connection diminishes. Mothers cultivate creativity from the earliest moments. Through play, storytelling, music, and encouragement, they nurture imagination and curiosity. A mother's attention to a child's ideas, no matter how small, validates the creative impulse. Without mothers, the spark of imagination may exist, but is less likely to be nourished, leaving creative potential dormant. Philosophers link creativity to love and growth. Plato suggested that love inspires creation in both life and ideas. Mothers embody this principle, giving life biologically and through nurturing imagination. Henri Bergson described life as a creative force. Mothers help children tap into this energy by encouraging expression and exploration. Martha Nussbaum emphasizes that imagination, empathy, and creativity are intertwined. Maternal care nurtures these qualities. Literature highlights maternal influence on creativity. In James Joyce's A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, Stephen Dedalus's early life and maternal absence shape his artistic vision. Khaled Hosseini's The Kite Runner shows creative expression emerging from maternal longing or absence. In Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse, Lily Briscoe's artistic pursuits are inspired and shaped by Mrs. Ramsay's presence, showing mothers' formative role in creativity. Religious traditions connect mothers to creation and art. Hinduism honors Saraswati, goddess of wisdom, music, and knowledge. Christianity celebrates Mary as a muse, inspiring countless works of art. Indigenous traditions honor Earth as mother, reflecting nurturing cycles in nature and creativity. Without mothers, art and imagination could persist, but lack intimacy, warmth, and grounding in lived experience. Lullabies, playful encouragement, and storytelling, vital catalysts of creativity, might vanish. Mothers teach that life is not only survival, but beauty, exploration, and self expression. Without them, humanity's cultural and imaginative richness would be greatly diminished. Identity is inseparable from early relationships. Mothers are often the first to name us, recognize our uniqueness, and affirm our belonging. They provide a mirror for self understanding, helping us navigate the world with rootedness. Without mothers, identity is fragile, shaped largely by external institutions rather than intimate guidance. Philosophers stress recognition as central to identity. Hegel argued that recognition is essential for self consciousness. Mothers are often first to provide it. Descartes' "I think, therefore I am" may hold intellectually, but relational affirmation, often maternal, shapes lived experience. Erik Erikson's developmental stages show that trust, autonomy, and identity depend on early maternal attachment. Literature emphasizes maternal influence on identity. In Toni Morrison's Beloved, Setha's identity and choices are entwined with motherhood. In Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre, maternal absence leaves Jane searching for belonging, yet motherly figures shape her self-concept. In Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart, mothers ground children within the community, helping them understand social roles and values. Religious traditions recognize mothers as central to identity. In Judaism, lineage is traced through mothers, reinforcing community and heritage. Christianity honors Mary as a spiritual guide, shaping faith identity. In Buddhism, the mother-child bond illustrates interdependence, showing that identity is inseparable from relationships. Without mothers, identity may be mediated by impersonal structures, lacking intimacy and depth. Children might know their names, history, and role, yet feel disconnected from belonging. Mothers provide grounding, recognition, and affirmation that enable a stable, meaningful self. Without them, the human story loses one of its central threads of connection and meaning. Mothers are often the first to teach social responsibility. By modeling care, patience, and accountability, they instill a sense of duty toward others. Small acts, helping a sibling, sharing, comforting friends, are first learned in the maternal sphere. Without mothers, children might learn rules, but internalized ethical responsibility could be weaker. Philosophers link moral responsibility to social development. Aristotle argued that virtue is learned through habituation. Mothers are earliest guides of this practice. John Dewey emphasized experiential learning. Maternal care provides the first context to practice empathy and responsibility. Confucian thought stresses filial piety and moral cultivation, often first instilled by mothers. Literature illustrates maternal shaping of social conscience. In Louisa May Alcott's Little Women, Marmee teaches her daughters to consider others' needs. Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird shows lessons in fairness and justice, less immediate without maternal influence. In Isabel Allende's The House of the Spirits, matriarchs guide younger generations toward understanding societal roles and ethics. Religious traditions emphasize maternal responsibility. In Christianity, Mary's care for Jesus models nurturing and moral teaching. In Islam, mothers instill faith and ethical principles from earliest childhood. In Hinduism, maternal figures transmit dharma, linking personal conduct to communal responsibility. Without mothers, responsibility might be taught externally through laws or institutions, but it lacks lived moral depth. Societies without maternal guidance risk producing individuals who understand rules but lack empathy or internal motivation. Mothers cultivate moral imagination that sustains civil society. They teach that caring for others is not just duty, it is a way of being. Mothers are the earliest teachers of emotional intelligence. They help children recognize, name, and regulate feelings. A soothing touch or calm voice teaches self-awareness, while attention to others' emotions teaches empathy. Without maternal guidance, emotional intelligence might develop more slowly, leaving individuals less attuned to their own feelings and those of others. Philosophers and psychologists link early care to emotional development. John Bowlby's attachment theory shows that secure bonds foster emotional regulation and resilience. Daniel Goleman describes emotional intelligence as critical for life success. Mothers are first guides in this skill. Nancy Chodorow emphasizes that maternal care shapes relational and affective capacities that persist into adulthood. Literature illustrates maternal influence on emotional growth. In Louisa May Alcott's Little Women, Marmee models emotional understanding and conflict resolution. Maya Angelou's Mom and Me and Mom reflects maternal lessons shaping identity, resilience, and empathy. In Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, Scout learns to navigate complex emotional and social situations through maternal influence, even indirectly. Religious traditions often link maternal care to emotional development. In Buddhism, motherly compassion models universal empathy. In Christianity, Mary embodies patience and emotional insight, providing a template for relational intelligence. Indigenous spiritual traditions emphasize maternal teaching of harmony with others and nature, promoting relational awareness. Without mothers, emotional intelligence may rely solely on formal teaching or mimicry. The ability to perceive, understand, and respond to emotions might become less intuitive and deeply felt. Mothers instill the capacity to navigate inner and outer worlds with awareness, empathy, and care. Without them, society risks becoming emotionally disconnected, less compassionate, and less capable of understanding itself or others. Mothers are often the first peacemakers in a child's life. Through gentle guidance, they teach negotiation, patience, and compromise. From squabbles over toys to complex interpersonal tensions, mothers model conflict resolution without aggression. Their interventions are not just about winning arguments, but fostering understanding, empathy, and fairness. Without mothers, early lessons in conflict resolution might be harsher, more transactional, or delayed. Philosophers and psychologists highlight the importance of early social guidance. Aristotle saw virtue as habituation. Conflict management is part of moral and relational training. John Dewey emphasized experiential learning, noting children acquire skills through interaction. Maternal guidance is the first context in which this learning occurs. Daniel Goleman points out that emotional intelligence includes managing conflicts, a skill mothers cultivate from first disputes. Literature shows maternal influence in conflict resolution. In Louisa May Alcott's Little Women, Marmee mediates quarrels among daughters, teaching negotiation, patience, and compromise. In Toni Morrison's Beloved, absence of maternal mediation leaves tension and trauma unresolved, revealing the cost of lacking maternal guidance. In Alice Walker's The Color Purple, women mediate conflicts and foster reconciliation, illustrating maternal influence on broader social harmony. Religious traditions reinforce mothers as peacemakers. In Christianity, Mary embodies patience and reconciliation. In Buddhism, the maternal archetype exemplifies compassion amid human tension. In Islam, mothers teach fairness, kindness, and harmony within families and communities. Without mothers, individuals face conflict with fewer tools for understanding, forgiveness, or cooperation. Societies might rely on rules, law, or authority, but subtle skills of empathy, patience, and dialogue would be diminished. Mothers show that peace is cultivated daily, that relationships are strengthened through care, and that understanding others is as important as asserting oneself. A world without maternal guidance in conflict would be harsher, lonelier, and less harmonious. Mothers teach moral courage by modeling integrity and resilience. Their daily choices, standing up for fairness, protecting the vulnerable, or acting honestly, serve as templates for children. Even small acts, like defending a sibling or admitting a mistake, show morality requires action, not just thought. Without mothers, these early lessons might be delayed or absent, leaving moral courage unformed. Philosophically, moral courage is central to ethical life. Aristotle described courage as a virtue, the balance between fear and recklessness. Mothers often embody this balance. Immanuel Kant argued duty and moral law require action aligned with principles. Mothers show how to enact responsibilities in daily life. Hannah Arendt reflected on dangers of moral passivity. Maternal examples counteract this, showing that ethical courage is learned and lived. Literature emphasizes maternal influence on courage. In Louisa May Alcott's Little Women, Marmee's fortitude inspires her daughters to act with integrity, even in adversity. In Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, maternal absence highlights gaps in lessons of moral courage. In Victor Hugo's Les Miserables, Fantine's sacrifices demonstrate maternal bravery as a model for moral resilience. Religious traditions often connect mothers and courage. In Christianity, Mary exemplifies faithful endurance. In Hinduism, Durga symbolizes righteous bravery in the face of chaos. In Islam, mothers like Hajar demonstrate persistence, courage, and ethical action in extreme circumstances. Without mothers, moral courage might be taught through societal rules, but its deeply personal, modeled form would be missing. Mothers show that bravery begins in small, intimate actions, cultivated through example and love. They teach courage as daily ethical choices, not just heroic acts. A world without maternal guidance and moral courage risks producing individuals less capable of standing up for justice, empathy, or integrity. Mothers are central to cultural continuity, passing down values, customs, language, and traditions. Through stories, rituals, and daily practices, they connect children to heritage and identity. Without mothers, cultural transmission might rely solely on schools or institutions, losing warmth, context, and intimacy. Mothers ensure culture is lived, experienced, and personalized rather than abstract. Philosophers stress the importance of transmitted knowledge. John Locke emphasized experience as foundational to learning. Maternal guidance is the first conduit of experiential knowledge. Maurice Halbwachs described collective memory as socially transmitted, often rooted in maternal influence. Without maternal care, collective memory would be thinner, leaving a fragile connection to the past. Literature celebrates maternal roles in cultural preservation. In Amy Tan's The Joy Luck Club, mothers pass down cultural stories, shaping daughters' understanding of identity and resilience. In Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie's Half of a Yellow Sun, maternal figures preserve history amidst upheaval. In Gabriel Garcia Marquez's 100 Years of Solitude, matriarchs sustain generational memory and family lore, exemplifying cultural stewardship. Religious traditions highlight maternal responsibility for culture. In Judaism, mothers preserve rituals, prayers, and values, ensuring faith is passed to future generations. In Hinduism, mothers transmit dharma and spiritual practices, shaping community ethics. Christianity recognizes Mary and other maternal figures as transmitters of faith and cultural values. Without mothers, cultural continuity would risk becoming institutional and impersonal. Values might survive in textbooks, rituals, and manuals, but lived experience, the nuance, care, and relational meaning would be lost. Mothers create bridges between generations, embedding culture within love, memory, and shared life. A world without mothers risks losing both history and heart. Mothers are essential to nurturing future generations, shaping not only children but society as a whole. Their influence extends from family to community to culture. They instill habits, values, and resilience, preparing children to face life's challenges. Without mothers, this guidance might be fragmented or lost, leaving societies less prepared for continuity. Philosophically, nurturing is central to human flourishing. John Bowlby emphasized attachment as the foundation for healthy development. Nancy Chodorow argued that mothering shapes relational capacities that extend into adulthood. Mothers are the first role models, teaching patience, empathy, and responsibility. Literature reflects maternal influence on generational continuity. In Louisa May Alcott's Little Women, Marmee nurtures daughters who carry her values into adulthood. In Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, the absence of a mother leaves gaps partially filled by others, but maternal lessons remain irreplaceable. In Alice Walker's The Color Purple, maternal mentoring transforms children into resilient, morally conscious adults. Religious traditions link maternal care to future generations. In Christianity, Mary's role as mother of Jesus exemplifies nurturing that shapes history. In Hinduism, maternal guidance ensures adherence to dharma and cultural continuity. In Islam, mothers instill moral, spiritual, and social values critical for future generations. Without mothers, the chain of nurturing is disrupted. Institutions can teach skills, but they cannot replicate the intimate shaping of character, empathy, or moral imagination that mothers provide. Societies without maternal guidance risk producing individuals less capable of emotional depth, ethical decision-making, or relational skill. Mothers ensure future generations inherit both knowledge and heart, preparing humanity to flourish in every dimension. These resources provide insight into the ideas explored throughout this journey. John Bowlby's A Secure Base delves into attachment theory, showing the foundational role of early bonds, particularly maternal care, in shaping human development. Nancy Chodorow's The Reproduction of Mothering explores the social and psychological dimensions of mothering, highlighting how mothers transmit relational and cultural capacities across generations. C.S. Lewis's A Grief Observed examines loss, reflection, and the depth of emotional connection, offering a meditation on grief and the human need for maternal care. Raising Cain by Dan Kindlin and Michael Thompson investigates emotional development in boys and the importance of nurturing guidance. Simone de Beauvoir's The Second Sex emphasizes the social construction of gender and how motherhood and female identity shape society. Luann Brizendin's The Female Brain provides a scientific lens on how maternal influence impacts emotional and cognitive development. Podcasts like The Guilty Feminist and Hidden Brain, The Double Standard explore contemporary cultural and psychological dynamics of care, empathy, and gender. Philosophize This offers historical and philosophical perspectives on gender, society, and morality. Websites such as fatherhood.org and psychologytoday.com provide practical insights on parenting and emotional development. Each resource complements the others, providing science, philosophy, literature, and lived experience to understand the irreplaceable role of mothers. Together, they illuminate why maternal presence matters, not only for individual growth, but for the cultural, emotional, and moral fabric of humanity. Engaging with these texts, talks, and platforms can deepen understanding, spark reflection, and guide action in nurturing relationships and communities. As we reflect on this thought experiment, it becomes clear that mothers are essential to the human story. They shape identity, morality, creativity, and emotional resilience. They anchor communities, preserve culture, and transmit values across generations. Without them, we see not only absence but the fragility of social bonds and the gaps in our moral and emotional education. Mothers teach empathy, compassion, and moral courage in ways no institution can replicate. They guide conflict resolution, nurture creativity, and model resilience through both words and actions. Their influence extends far beyond the household, shaping society, culture, and future generations. Literature, philosophy, psychology, and religion consistently highlight the centrality of maternal presence. This reflection reminds us to value the everyday acts of care, guidance, and love that mothers provide. It challenges us to recognize their contributions, often unseen, to our personal development and societal well-being. Mothers are not only caregivers, but ethical and cultural architects, sustaining human life in its fullest sense. Though this scenario is hypothetical, it illuminates a truth we too often overlook. Maternal presence is a gift, a foundation, and a light in the world. In honoring mothers, we honor the very bonds that make humanity compassionate, creative, and enduring. Mothers foster the moral imagination, teaching the subtlety of care, the courage to act ethically, and the resilience to face life's challenges. They preserve stories, heritage, and the wisdom that flows across generations. They shape identity through recognition, emotional guidance, and nurturing presence. Mothers create the relational web on which society depends, making community possible and culture meaningful. Even in their absence, the imprint of mothers can be seen in literature, philosophy, and religious thought. Figures like Mary, Durga, and Hajar exemplify the transcendent power of maternal love and resilience. Literary mothers, from Marmee to Fantine, illuminate human potential for care, sacrifice, and ethical action. Philosophers remind us that relational bonds, moral courage, and social cohesion are inseparable from maternal influence. A world without mothers may survive in structure, but would lack soul. It would be functional, but impoverished, capable of sustaining life, but incapable of nurturing its depth. Mothers give life meaning, infuse daily acts with care, and guide humanity toward both survival and flourishing. Their absence would reveal how deeply human experience depends on intimacy, care, and relational guidance. Mothers shape the first bonds of trust and attachment, the foundation of all future relationships. They cultivate empathy before formal morality, resilience before adversity, and creativity before instruction. They model courage and ethical action, often through silent example rather than explicit teaching. Without mothers, the moral, emotional, and cultural fabric of society would be diminished, leaving gaps that no institution or technology could fully fill. Ultimately, mothers are both ordinary and extraordinary. They are found in quiet daily acts of care and in the heroic endurance of hardship. They shape hearts, minds, and spirits, embedding relational and cultural wisdom that spans lifetimes. Recognizing their role reminds us that humanity is defined not only by survival, but by the depth of our care, our creativity, and our capacity for love. Honoring mothers means honoring the fundamental bonds that sustain life, society, and culture. It means appreciating the invisible threads of nurturing, guidance, and presence that form the foundation of everything human. Mothers are irreplaceable. They are the architects of our moral, cultural, and emotional inheritance. Their gift is enduring, their impact immeasurable, and their absence would be a loss felt across time, generations, and every facet of human life.